You weren't forgotten. You weren't broken. You were surviving in pieces. Welcome back. I'm Rachel or Ray, and this is The Void and the Flame. Not polished answers, but the raw truth of what it means to live through the shadows and still carry the flame forward. Before we get started, a quick note. This episode touches on trauma, memory loss, and some painful personal experiences. If at any point you feel overwhelmed, pause, take a breath, and come back when you're ready. Your pace is the right pace. And as always, take care of yourself first. Okay, if you're ready, let's get into it. Have you ever realized you forgot whole chunks of your life? Or convinced yourself something happened years later than it really did? That's what trauma does. It bends time, it fogs memory, it leaves scars so deep that even decades later, you can still feel the echo. I can't tell you how many times I thought I was just broken, lazy, forgetful, failing, when really, my brain was doing what it had to do to survive. Maybe you felt that too. I used to joke that my brain had about as many tabs open as my internet browser, and just like Chrome, it was eating up all of my memory. Memory fog, fractured time, the way whole chapters vanish or single moments stretch forever. These are things so many of us live with after trauma. One of the deepest scars in my memory isn't just about the words themselves, but about who they came from. Not a stranger, not some random person passing through my life, but someone who was supposed to love me and someone who was supposed to keep me safe. And what they said essentially was this: "You were never meant to be here." And they laughed after they had said that. And I remember the air going out of my lungs. I remember my chest tightening like I had just been hit. And I didn't even have words for it then, but my body carried it. Even my mind lost track of when it happened. Now, if hearing that stung, pause for a breath. Remember, this is my story. Yours may look different. And whoever you are, you deserve to feel safe hearing this. For almost 2 decades, I believed this moment happened when I was about 15. But in August of this year, someone close to me had brought it up completely out of the blue. And I had learned that it actually happened when I was in my early to mid 20s. And that's how trauma works. It doesn't file memories neatly. It smashes the clock, it erases context, and it leaves you with fragments. Just the wound, just the echo. Here's the wildest part. For months leading up to that day, this memory had been looping in my head nonstop, over and over, refusing to let go. Now, the person that had brought this up to me had no idea that I had been stuck in this loop, and when they brought it up randomly, they had handed me the exact missing pieces that I didn't even know I needed. And once I had the context, everything started to shift. The memory didn't hurt the same way. It was like the loop had ended. It didn't sting the same way it had before. And I felt like I kind of breathe again. And that's what unprocessed trauma does. It resurfaces until we deal with it. But the moment we begin to process it, bring it into the light, and give it a place, it loosens its grip. It stops owning us. That's why I've also said in past episodes on this podcast, name it to tame it. Because sometimes just hearing yourself say things out loud too can be pretty transformative in itself. And I can tell you, the context that I was given helped me finally let go of that loop. It wasn't just realizing that I had already been a mother at that time, being told that I shouldn't exist. It was also knowing that I had people I could run to in that moment who felt that pain with me. And that reminder that I wasn't alone was what finally allowed me to breathe again, strangely. It was knowing that in that darkest moment, even this moment that I continued to relive up until last month, that there was actually other people that were there that were comforting me, and that somehow comforted me now all these decades later. Enough to finally let that loop go and to process that pain once and for all. And, my story is not unique. This kind of abuse doesn't just break your heart, it can rewire your brain. And you'll hear me say that several times. Rewire your brain. I think that's very important. But let me explain what I mean. Now, you know what nobody tells you about narcissistic abuse? It's that it literally rewires your brain. Now, we're not just talking about emotional scars. I'm talking about fog, memory gaps, fractured time. Prolonged emotional abuse floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol. And when that happens over and over, parts of your brain start to change. The hippocampus, that part that's supposed to file your memories neatly, it shrinks under that pressure. That's why you can't remember whole conversations or sometimes even whole years. The amygdala, the fear center, well, that gets stuck on high alert, which means you're constantly scanning for danger, even in safe spaces. And the prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that helps you think clearly and make decisions, well, it struggles to do its job when you're living in survival mode. So if you've lived in that fog, and if you've walked into a room and forgotten why you're there, or lost whole years to a blur, you're not alone. And that's not failing. That's trauma physiology at work. So when people say, "Why can't you get over it? Why do you keep forgetting things?" The truth is, your brain was doing whatever it had to do to protect you. That fog wasn't weakness. That fractured time wasn't failure. It was survival. And here's the hope. Brains are plastic. They heal. Safe spaces, supportive people, trauma-informed tools, they give your brain permission to rewire itself again. I know because I've lived it. And if you're listening to this and you recognize yourself in my words, I want you to know you are not broken. You're proof of survival and that healing is possible. I want you to know this isn't just my story. Research backs this up. One study on traumatic memory found that survivors often misplace timelines or even fill in blanks with pieces that don't belong. Imagine remembering a conversation so vividly you can almost hear the words again, yet realizing years later it actually happened at a completely different point in your life. That's not sloppy record keeping, that's protection. Another study looked at people living through COVID-19 and found something pretty fascinating. Many couldn't tell if certain events had happened weeks ago or months ago. Time itself felt warped. And when I read that, it hit me because that's exactly what trauma feels like. Calendars that don't make sense, clocks that don't add up. a year that feels like a week, and a week that feels like forever. I am currently experiencing this now. I have been unemployed up until actually yesterday for a little over 3 months, and it's been hard to keep track of days and times, and everything has been a big blur. And the experience of losing my job was pretty traumatic all in itself, and what I had been going through shortly before that, too. It all added on to this mess that was my brain, and the brain fog became very real. Memory loss became a concern. Also, when you come from a family where dementia is definitely in your lineage, you worry about things like this. You worry more about the memory loss and concerns because you already know that is something that is going to be against you as you age and get older. And when you add years of trauma on top of that, it can feel like an uphill battle some days. But I am aware of these battles. I'm aware of what I have to fight against, and what I have been fighting against or working against as well, because I fight and work against myself, unfortunately. Trying to own these things, acknowledge these things, and work with myself rather than against myself has been pretty life changing. And there's more to this because it's not just the mental part of all of this, there's also the body symptoms. So, research shows that people who've lived through interpersonal trauma, especially abuse by somebody they trusted, report higher levels of unexplained pain, stomach issues, or constant fatigue. Doctors can't always find a medical cause, but the body is remembering what the mind can't process neatly. Your body becomes the record keeper when your brain can't bear the weight. And everyday memories get affected too. A study on PTSD found that people don't just forget traumatic events, they can struggle to remember ordinary daily moments. They lose the ability to segment life into clear scenes. Now, imagine a day where you ran errands, talked to a friend, cooked dinner, but instead of distinct memories, it all blurs together like smudged ink. That's trauma reshaping the way the brain encodes time itself. Now, here's one metaphor researchers use. Think of your brain like a filing cabinet, except this isn't your tidy IKEA filing cabinet. This is that one drawer in the kitchen where you throw everything you don't know what to do with. That's trauma filing for you. On a normal day, the hippocampus, the clerk, stamps every memory with time and place, then files it neatly away. Under trauma, that clerk panics. Files get shoved into the wrong drawers, mislabeled, and left scattered all over the floor. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the smoke alarm, gets stuck on high alert, blaring non-stop. And the prefrontal cortex, the CEO, tries to run the company while alarms are screaming and papers are everywhere. Of course, you can't focus. Of course, you can't remember. When cortisol and adrenaline surge through your body day after day, they leave their fingerprints on the brain. They shrink the filing cabinet, keeping the alarm blaring and exhausting the CEO trying to just keep it all together. Some memories even become too clear. When something is encoded under intense stress, it's branded into the brain like a hot iron. Your system says, never forget this, it's survival. That's why some moments stay painfully vivid, while everything around them kind of fades into haze. And the nuance matters. Not all brain changes are permanent. Because remember, the brain is plastic. It rewires. So, how severe the trauma was, how long it lasted, how young you were, whether you had support. All of these things shape how memory is affected. But the bottom line is this: healing is possible. Now, let's make this personal. Because maybe you're thinking, okay, that's the science, but how do I know if I have trauma fog? Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever sworn you texted someone back only to find the message still sitting in your drafts? Or had a fight with someone and later you can't remember if it was last month or last year? Or maybe you're going through a whole season, summer, fall, winter, and realized you can't recall a single detail about it. Think about your own life. Can you remember a time you lost a whole stretch or blurred a season together? Pause for a second and really let yourself notice what memory or gap comes up. And if any of that sounds familiar, you're not losing it. You're not flaky. That is your brain rationing bandwidth. I lost an entire July. I can tell you it was hot because, well, Syracuse summers always are, but ask but ask me what I did, who I saw, not a clue. It's like someone cut the chapter out of the book of my life. And I unfortunately have had many Julys, so to speak. And here's the thing. So many survivors share that same story. Some call it time soup. Others call it Swiss cheese memory. Whatever the metaphor, it all comes back to the same truth. Your brain isn't sloppy, it's protecting you. So if you notice that kind of blur in your own life, you're not alone and you're not broken. You're surviving. Now you might be wondering, okay, I get that my brain blurs or erases to protect me, but how is that really protection? Here's the thing. Your brain is always on your side. Always. Even when the strategies don't feel helpful in the long run. When something overwhelms you, your system sometimes says, this is too much to hold right now. So it cuts the scene, it blurs the details, it tucks the memory into a messy drawer and says, we'll deal with that later. That's protection. Because if you had to carry every painful detail in sharp focus, you might collapse under the weight. Your brain gives you just enough to survive the moment. Yes, sometimes that survival strategy leaves scars of its own, but survival wiring isn't permanent wiring. Through neuroplasticity, your brain can learn a new pattern. That you're safe now. That the alarm doesn't need to keep ringing. That time can flow again. It's like with smoking, overeating, or any behavior we call a bad habit. At the start, those things were ways that our body tried to regulate, to numb, to calm, to protect. They weren't malice, they were misguided safety. The same goes for memory fog and missing time. They aren't failures, they're shields. And the beauty of healing is teaching your brain new ways forward, ways that protect without erasing you in the process. So, when you notice fog or fractured time, try this reframe. It's not proof you're broken. It's evidence your brain did whatever it had to do to keep you alive. The groove that got carved by pain, it isn't permanent. New pathways can form. You can teach your system, I'm safe now. We can file this properly. We can let this go. Now, I want you to imagine what it will feel like the next time the fog lifts just a little sooner, or a memory loses just a little bit of its sting. That's your brain rewiring itself. Now, trauma doesn't just live in your brain, like I said before, it lives in your body too. Now, before we start, know this: if anything feels too heavy, you can skip this exercise or just listen along without doing it. Go at your own pace. You are in control. Let's try something simple together. Take a slow breath in and let it out. Now bring to mind a memory that tends to loop, not your heaviest one, just something that keeps resurfacing. Notice where you feel that in your body: your chest, your throat, your gut, maybe your back. Here's the reframe. Instead of fighting that sensation, thank your body. It isn't betraying you, it's protecting you. It's saying, this mattered, this hurt, please pay attention. Now place your hand gently where you feel it and say softly to yourself, I hear you, I see you, and I'm safe now. This is how grooves soften. This is how loops begin to quiet, not by running from them, but by teaching both brain and body that the alarm doesn't have to keep ringing. This is how the fog starts to lift. Take one more breath with me. And no, you don't need to look like a yogi or hum like a monk while you do this. Just breathing and placing your hand where you feel it is more than enough. Breathe in, and as you exhale, I want you to imagine sending warmth from your hand into that spot in your body. Almost like you're telling that part of yourself, you don't have to carry this alone anymore. Now, we've done body work together, but I want to leave you with one more tool. This one's about time, because if trauma bends and fractures time, then part of healing is gently teaching your brain how now feels like. It's simple, and you can try it with me right now. First, say the day of the week out loud. Now add the date. And then name one thing you've already done today. It can be as simple as I made coffee. That's it. Day, date, one small fact. So today, for me, it's Monday, September 22nd, and today was my first day working in a restaurant. Why does this matter? Because every time you do it, you're anchoring your nervous system in the present moment. You're reminding your brain, we're safe, we're here, this is real. Now, I've done this in grocery store parking lots. I remember standing in Walmart parking lot panicking, like not knowing what day it was. And I had to whisper to myself, it's Tuesday, it's May 3rd, I just bought apples. And suddenly, like a thread pulling me back, I was here again. I've done it in the middle of arguments. I've even done it when I'm recording these episodes. And every time, it's like I can feel the fog lift just a little bit. The floor under my feet comes back. So Try it in the next time that you feel that blur creeping in. Day, date, one fact. It sounds small, but remember, healing happens in micro steps, and this one is a powerful reset. Living with memory gaps and time distortion can feel like walking through a thick haze. I've had days where I look back and realize entire weeks are gone. Like someone hit fast forward and I wasn't even there for it. Other times, a single hour stretches endlessly, like time itself is mocking me. And in the fog, it's easy to believe that you're losing your grip. But what's really happening is that your brain is rationing your awareness. It's cutting off what feels unbearable and bending time to help you endure. For years, I blamed myself. I thought I was lazy, forgetful, or just not trying hard enough. I can remember walking into rooms and forgetting why I was there. This happens to me way more than I'd care to admit. I've also spaced out during important conversations and then totally beat myself up about it afterwards. And I'm sure we all know society doesn't help. I mean, people slap labels on you like flaky, careless, unreliable, but they don't see what's happening underneath. And that shame piles on top of the trauma, and it makes that fog even heavier. The truth is, memory fragmentation isn't failure. It's a protection strategy. When you're living in survival mode, your system isn't prioritizing neat timelines or crystal clear details. It's prioritizing keeping you alive. Your brain is saying, we'll deal with the details later. Right now, we just need to survive this. And that's not weakness. That's adaptation. It's proof of endurance, not evidence of being broken. So instead of hating yourself for forgetting, start recognizing the signal for what it is. Every gap, every foggy stretch of time, every crystal clear scar burned into memory. All of it is your system saying, I endured something big, and this was the cost of survival. And the reframe is this: you weren't failing, you were adapting. And now, as you begin to process and integrate those pieces, you have the chance to reclaim them, to turn fog into clarity, to turn shame into survival wisdom, to remind yourself, I am not broken. I am proof that survival is possible. If you've had memories that haunt you or whole chapters that feel missing, you're not broken. Your brain and your body were protecting you. Pay attention to the loops that keep resurfacing. They're often invitations to process, not punishments. If any of this episode resonates, look for trauma-informed support. Modalities like EMDR, somatic work, or trauma-savvy counseling can help your system finally file what it couldn't before. Healing is a process, and it's valid to get help for it. Quick disclaimer: this podcast isn't medical advice. It's lived experience plus research, so please seek professional support if you need it. And here's my invitation for you this week. Once a day, anchor yourself. Say the day, say the date, and one thing you did. Notice how it shifts your body, even just a little. That's how we teach our nervous system to trust time again. Now, you weren't forgetful. You weren't broken. You were surviving in pieces. I know it's hard, and I know it's heavy, but every time you soften a groove, every time you face one of those pieces, every time you let a looping memory be felt named, and placed, you reclaim more of yourself. And every piece you reclaim is proof that you survived, proof that you're still here. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for walking this path with me. I know it isn't easy. And please remember, healing doesn't happen in leaps. It happens in micro steps. One breath, one reframe, one choice to keep going. If you'd like support, resources are in the show notes. That includes trauma-informed tools, the references for science I've shared, and ways to connect with help if you need it. And if you ever want to reach out, my DMs are always open on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. I'll also have all those details for you in the show note. I want to also share on this podcast, I am a trauma-informed certified life coach. So not only am I a survivor, but I am trained to walk with others through these same patterns and pieces. It's work I deeply am passionate about. It's something that has been a driving force for me for a long time, probably longer than I even realized. So if you feel called to explore coaching with me, you'll find my email in the notes below. Send me an email. Let's open the conversation. Change is possible. Nothing is permanent. Thank you for trusting me not only with your time, but also your ears. And I just want to remind you that it all starts and ends with us. So I'll see you next time. And remember, keep the fire lit.